platforms that we have at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, Wikiprogress and Wikigender. But I want to start with how I want to frame this presentation with this quote. Google's founding philosophy is that we don't know why this page is better than that one. If the statistics of incoming links say it is, that's good enough. No semantic or causal analysis is required. That's from Wired 2008. Doesn't matter whether or not that actually is Google's founding policy. Wired says it is, and it came up first in Google. So I question something I'm coming across now is quality in these platforms. But Wikiprogress, I could just give you a little background. Wikiprogress is a trend from the grassroots. It's set up in the framework of the global project on measuring the progress of societies. It's an answer to a call that there's an increasing gap between official statistics on economic performance and how people perceive their own living conditions. And there's a real risk of people losing faith in government's ability to address what matters for them. And this has implications for the very functioning of democracy. You'll see here, this is a Gallup graph that shows that the population was not thriving as GDP was rising. And then income inequality, and just showing here how income inequality has widened in 3/4 of OECD countries between 1985 and 2005, and even worse now. Wealthier populations are not necessarily more satisfied with their lives. So, Wikiprogress objectives. In the global project, we set up this open source platform to create a participatory web platform to communicate to a network and nurture this network for advocacy, sharing, and creation of information on progress, providing a global dialogue. It provides research and debates and brings anyone who's interested in the idea of well-being in societies to the internet. We have a wikiprogress.stat, which is a database of indicators where anybody can come in. It's open, open, open. It's not just for OECD staff or European Union or Americans. It's for everybody to come in. But they don't all come in, and I'll tell you why in a minute. We have visualization tools to better understand environmental, social, and economic indicators. We're trying to mitigate this garbage in, garbage out. If you've got garbage data and then you visualize it with garbage, then you're going to have garbage going all over these social networks, and that really has big implications on trust. The global project, just to give you a little idea what's happening there, the initial objectives were to encourage communities, regions, and countries to consider for themselves what progress means. It's not for donor countries to tell developing countries what their priorities are or what their indicators are for progress. There's a stimulation of a national international debate on social progress via events, and the network of networks that's showing up on Wikiprogress. The OECD has created a framework for well-being indicators, and there's more events coming up with the 4th OECD Forum in 2012, and Wikiprogress is continuing to grow. Our wikiprogress.stat, we've got some indicators coming in, but actually those indicators are really coming in from people that we know. The vision of anybody coming in and uploading data on what's important to them has not happened. This has been 2 years running now, and we just haven't gotten to that point. And I'll tell you why in a second. Data can be visualized to support articles written on wikiprogress.org as well, which is happening. Progression in monthly visits on Wikiprogress, you can see up, 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 up. But at August 2010, we noticed that there may be like a little bit of a flat line there, so we decided we had to do some communications. We had to have a newsletter, and we had to have a blog, and we had to have an e-brief monthly, and daily tweets, and Facebook, and a lot of really serious work had to go into communicating what was happening on this platform. And that's fine, so now we're almost up to 10,000 unique visitors per month on Wikiprogress, which is fine. And we also have a media review of over 160 media entries per month, which is unique to Wikiprogress if you're interested in the concept of well-being. We have networks. We have 4 big ones: the Global Progress Research Network, the Wiki Gender Network, which is working on gender equality. We have a child well-being network. All of these are running through IT platforms, and we have a very big interested public. We have Latin America Network on Progress, which just started as well. So for this session, when I was looking through the website on Paradiso, it seemed that Paradiso is really looking for some new research ideas. What should we really be looking into? And from where I stand, I can say that the real issue is quality guidelines. If you're going to invite everybody into your platform to talk about things that matter to policy, the thing is that they might come. And if they come, what are they going to say? And are we prepared? And I say we, OECD and the Global Project, which represents several international organizations, are we prepared for what they might say? Actually, that's a big, big question. So we started with really going with people we know, just with people we know. We were sure that the quality was going to be okay, but we grew, by hundreds and hundreds of articles. We cannot have every article go through the several committees that the OECD, for example, you have to go through to get a book published. So when people look at it that are maybe at a more authoritative, have a more authoritative voice, they might say, yeah, well, I mean, you didn't go through the millions of committees that we go through. So I think for project managers and people who are working on these kinds of platforms, if we could have some quality guidelines for these kinds of crowdsourced, crowdsourced platforms, that would be really helpful. Trusted networks, I just mentioned this a little bit. We really had a strategy because our Secretary General and our directors all said, just don't mess it up. Don't let anybody come in there and say nonsense, and then what are you going to do if they do? So we really tried to go with people that, that we knew, and that has worked so far. And then the data overload. It depends on who you talk to. Sometimes people say, researchers will say, well, with gender equality, there is no data. And then you talk to other people who say, there's so much data, we don't know what to do with it all. So, it's a bit of a confused issue at the moment. We're really looking into, who are going to be the winners here? Is it going to be the official sources that are coming from the ECB, the OECD, the Eurostat, or is it, going to be the one that comes up #1 on Google? So, thank you very much.
So I'd like to congratulate